From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Sonia Gray. Venezuela has issued a statement categorically rejecting the decision of the OAS Secretary General in seeking to initiate the application of the Inter-American Democratic Charter on Nicaragua. Such a measure would potentially pave the way for legal sanctions against the Nicaraguan government. The communiqué reads that the OAS head, Luis Almagro, has once again demonstrated his subservience to U.S. interests and continues to use the Organization of American States as an instrument against popular governments. Also, Evo Morales condemned the OAS decision on his personal Twitter account. He tweeted, "We reject that on instruction of the empire and with intentions, the intent to apply the democratic charter to in Nicaragua. You cannot go against the self-determination of peoples. The organisms must respect the sovereignty of Nicaragua." This, of course, follows a statement earlier in the week by the ALBA TCP countries, which rejected the application of unilateral U.S. sanctions against Nicaragua. Workers' unions and social organizations in Ecuador have taken to the streets of Quito to protest against recent hikes in the price of fuel.
Workers' union and several social organizations marched peacefully in Quito against the increase of the price of gas in Ecuador. Finance Minister Richard Martinez announced the price of regular gas, as well as that of Ecopais, which is a type of ethanol-derived gas, will increase from $1.48 to $1.85 per gallon. This has created an uproar in various areas of the country.
This is a neoliberal onset. It is a return of neoliberalism to Ecuador. This already happened in Argentina with the government of Mauricio Macri and in France with the government of Emmanuel Macron. These are outdated policies that already failed in other countries. This is why social organizations are once again taking to the streets to say to Lenin Moreno's government that our resistance starts now.
We have given an economic proposal that says no to oil intervention. We need to reduce the value-added tax from 12% to 10% for there to be an economic recovery. We must not forgive business people's debts, and we must get back to what was stolen so that Ecuadorians don't have to pay these consequences. Purchasing power has decreased. The price of gasoline is going up. There will be an economic crisis and inflation. So that is what we are rejecting.
This is the second demonstration after Minister Martinez made the announcement on the new price of fuel. In most gas stations in the country, premium gasoline has gone up in price from $2.98 to $3.10 per gallon. Before this change, the government had expressed that the price of premium gas would be regulated according to its market value.
Our union is taking its first action against the measures implemented by President Moreno and his ministers, against economic measures that have raised the price of gasoline and greatly affected the economy. It is unbelievable that they are putting their hands inside the pockets of our people to solve a crisis that hasn't been created by us.
The demonstration went past the streets of the historical center in Quito and ended outside the presidential palace. However, as has occurred in the last demonstrations against the economic adjustments, police blocked the entry to the palace.
This affects us all. The fact that they say that gas prices will increase, that will raise the price of everything. That's why we have to take to the streets and protest, so they know that people are being affected by these economic measures.
Workers' organizations have announced they will continue protesting against price increases and the economic measures of the government. They demand that the president work for citizens' interests and provide the necessary systems so that there is no price speculation of other basic goods, which would directly affect Ecuadorian families.
Just a few days to go before his term in office comes to an end, Brazilian President Michel Temer has a disapproval rating of over 80%. According to a poll by Datafolha, 82% of Brazilians say they are against Temer. Meanwhile, 62% categorize his government as really bad. Michel Temer came to power after a parliamentary coup against the former president Dilma Rousseff in 2016. Meanwhile, the Workers' Party legislative bloc has announced that they won't attend President-elect Jair Bolsonaro's swearing-in ceremony in the Congress. The PT said Bolsonaro promotes hate against social movements, against their party, and against their former president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. They added that Bolsonaro will lead an authoritarian, unpopular, and unpatriotic government with racist and misogynistic views. Last month, Cuba called off its More Doctors program in Brazil after the incoming president, Jair Bolsonaro, insulted the Cuban doctors. Following this decision, millions of Brazilians have been left without proper access to health care. Our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brian May, reports.
This is Marcia de Souza, who has been suffering because there are no more Cuban doctors in her neighborhood to attend the flow of patients, and she needs immediate medical care. In Ponto Alto favela in Guarulhos, a distant suburb of São Paulo, the local public health clinic has ground to a halt. 3 of the 4 doctors who worked there were Cubans, and when 8,517 Cuban doctors flew home after the Caribbean nation officially withdrew from the Brazilian government's More Doctors program, following xenophobic comments by far-right President-elect Jair Bolsonaro last month, they've been unable to find replacements.
If you go there, it's all empty. There are no doctors. There are just nurses. Thank God for that, at least. They got rid of the Cuban doctors who used to work here. A friend of mine died because there were no doctors. They have no shame. Things should be better organized. Where is the mayor?
The federal government announced vacancies for the jobs that had been occupied by the Cuban doctors, but people only applied for 70% of the positions, and only half of them actually appeared for work before the deadline ran out. Carlos Derman is a former municipal health secretary from the PT party. He says that last month, Guarulhos lost 28 doctors when the Cubans flew home.
It has always been hard to find family practitioners. It's not easy. For people who live far, there was always a lack of doctors. When I was the health secretary during Dilma Rousseff government, I made a deal with the World Health Organization and brought in the Cuban doctors, which was really important.
Now many people have to travel up to 2 hours to São Paulo for treatment.
The Cuban doctors were more human in providing treatments to us. They gave us more time and they listened to us more. On the other hand, Brazilian doctors are not as friendly.
Nobody at the clinic was willing to tell us when or if replacement doctors will arrive for the Cubans. In Guarulhos, this is Brian Mir reporting for Telesur.
A protest in Chile demanding justice for the death of a Mapuche man at the hands of the national police turned violence on Thursday. Fighting between protesters and police broke out in Santiago, and one officer was left unconscious. Water cannons and tear gas was used and several people were arrested. The protest was the latest in a series of rallies following the killing of Camilo Catrayanca last month. On Monday, Mapuche leaders called on the president to demand the resignation of the Interior Minister, Andres Chadwick, over his murder. Paraguay is set to inaugurate the first green route in South America in 2019. This electric vehicle route is planned to be 1,000 kilometers and will connect the country with the capital, Asunción. Electric cars will be able to be charged in less than 20 minutes at stations all along the highway. Paraguay is also seeking to start a similar initiative with their public transportation. We'll take a short break now, but we'll have more news after this. Welcome back. 2 women have died in Jamaica after a boat carrying over a dozen passengers capsized. The victims have not yet been identified. 11 passengers were rescued off the coast of Kingston and have been transferred to a local hospital. The authorities say they responded immediately to the distress call made by the boat and were able to recover the rest of the passengers. The accident happened between Port Royal and Lime Key in Jamaica. The government of Jamaica is considering imposing fines of up to $7,800 for violating the country's plastic ban. The ban on single-use plastics will take effect on January 1st. It is part of a state strategy to reduce the impact plastic waste is having on the environment. The Ministry of Economic Growth is still debating ways to enforce the ban. And Dominica's government is set to start construction on a geothermal energy plant in 2019. The plant will help bring clean and low-cost renewable energy to around 23,000 homes. According to the government, the project is expected to be completed in 18 months. So far, the government has invested $18 million in the plant, which will be built in Rosso Valley. It will be a major boost to the Caribbean island, which claims or aims to be the world's first climate-resilient country. Switching gears now, people in Madagascar have received Andries Rajoelina's recent victory in the country's runoff elections with mixed feelings.
I love him because he's young and he didn't really have a chance to exercise his power well during the transition. However, he was able to achieve a lot as president of the transition, and that was good.
The two candidates can say what they want. I would have really liked to have had another person in power, a new face, someone different.
The government of Bolivia is expecting the annual report from the United Nations on the eradication of illicit drugs and alternative development. There are great expectations over the report's finding, as last year showed an increase of 7% in the production of illegal crops.
Social organizations and local authorities from coca leaf producing zones have highlighted that the work of reducing illegal crops has been done for years, in agreement with campesino unions.
There is a coordinated teamwork with social organizations, as well as with different public and private organizations. We have seen a very positive result for our country.
Last year, coca leaf farming increased by 7%, which set off alarms within the organizations responsible for the reduction of these crops. This year, they achieved the record of reducing over 11,000 hectares of coca leaf crops, almost double the 6,200 removed last year.
This year, what we want to see in the report is that we have destroyed most of the illegal crop. That's the best we can achieve at the moment, because if we do a comparison across the region, taking into account all the financial support that comes from Colombia for the growth of coca leaf, they have almost quadrupled their crops. The same is happening in Peru.
Since 2009, when the United States Agricultural Agency was expelled for meddling with Bolivia's international policies, the government assumed the costs of eradicating illegal crops. They also promoted cooperation with neighboring countries and introduced methods approved by campesino unions.
We have new tools that allow the national police to be more efficient. For example, paying informants or intercepting calls. We have an effective cooperation law and a law to destroy property taken from drug traffickers.
Bolivia is the third largest producer of coca, having about 24,500 hectares of the crop last year, out of which 20,000 were legal. Peru comes in second place with 44,000 hectares, and Colombia first with more than 200,000 hectares.
The town of Cuauhtémoc in Venezuela's state of Miranda celebrates the Feast of the Holy Innocents. It's a 205-year-old cultural tradition, actually 205-year-old cultural tradition, held every 27th and 28th of December. Here, the Pantoja community carry green and red flags symbolizing the richness of the land and the blood of lost children. It's a tradition which was passed down from generation to generation. The boleros are central to the festivities as they go around the village, frightening people in colorful costumes and hats. The demonstration had its origins in the cocoa haciendas that were installed during colonial times. The characters depict enslaved people who first began these traditional dances. According to history, the plantation owners allowed their enslaved persons to have December 28th as a free day. So they would plan parties and go out to dance in colorful clothing. The women would wear large hats adorned with fruit, flowers, and twigs, and in celebration. And they made fun of their masters while enjoying food and beverages. We'll take a short break now. Please stay with us. Welcome back. A ship carrying over 300 migrants who were rescued by the humanitarian organization Open Arms has been allowed to dock in Spain. The government authorized the ship's docking after it was refused by both Malta and Italy. This resulted in migrants spending the holidays in the chilly waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Thousands of migrants hoping to reach Europe to escape poverty and war at home have died using the maritime route to enter the mainland. Meanwhile, the Spanish Red Cross, which was on hand to receive the migrants, has said the majority of them are in good health.
They are, in general terms, in good health. As a precaution, we have evacuated a person suffering from vomiting and fever. But their condition is good in general.
With less than 48 hours to go before the presidential elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a new poll is pointing to a victory for the opposition. Several protests are taking place in Benai and Butembo, where elections have been postponed. The poll by the New York-based Congo Research Group revealed that 44% of voters intend to vote for the Lamuka coalition candidate Martin Fayulu. This puts him ahead of the former frontrunner Felix Tshisekedi and the ruling party's Emmanuel Shadari. Israeli authorities have demolished over 5,000 Palestinian homes in 2018, leaving more than 1,000 people homeless. The report issued by the Abdullah Hurani Center shows that a majority of the demolitions were carried out in the Israeli-occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. In addition to homes demolished to pave way for Jewish-only settlements, Israeli authorities frequently demolish the homes of Palestinians allegedly involved in attacks against them. Dozens of Yellow Vest protesters have tried to block the entrance to an oil refinery near the city of Lyon in France. They were stopped by police and no clashes were reported. Representatives of the Yellow Vest movement have said that a 7th straight Saturday of protests will take place across the country on New Year's Eve.
What everyone needs to understand is that we've decided not to stop. The movement is not off. There is a small break, let's say during the holidays. And in January, it will start all over again. So we're showing that we're here. We're showing that we're not tired. And then we'll see how far it goes.
A new report has accused the UK government of the social murder of vulnerable people through austerity measures. The research published by the British Lancaster University in a peer-reviewed journal shows that the current government's policies regarding the social security system are harming working-class people. Severe cuts to benefits could harm the physical and mental well-being of low-income persons. This has resulted in an increase in suicides and deaths due to malnutrition and homeless people dying on the streets. Donald Trump has threatened to close the border and stop any financial aid for Honduras, Guatemala and El Salvador if he does not get support from the Democratic Party to build his wall. Alina Duarte has those details.
This Friday, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to close the southern border if the Democrats refused to provide funding to complete the construction of the wall. He took to Twitter threatening to close the border after 1 week of the partial shutdown of the government, which has affected close to 800,000 public workers. Via his Twitter account, he said he is forced to close the southern border if the Democrats don't give up the money to finish the wall and change the migration laws that he labeled as ridiculous. He also assured that the United States is losing money with Mexico, more than $75,000 every year, not counting drug money. He's insisted on closing the border and building the wall. He said that Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador are not doing anything for the U.S., only taking its money. Trump also threatened to cut all financial aid to these countries that he says are taking advantage of the United States, saying that they have been doing so for years. These are the latest threats from U.S. President Donald Trump in his efforts to obtain the $5 million for the wall.
And we end in Jamaica, where Prime Minister Andrew Holness has shown that it really is a season to be jolly with his dance moves. As we prepare to say goodbye to this year and celebrate the start of 2019, Prime Minister Holness has reminded us how we should do it. So don't forget to show off your best moves as you dance the night away to end 2018. I really hope that's not representative of his best dance moves. We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellusenglish.net. And join us on social media. We could be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tell Us Your English. I'm Soini Gray. Thank you for watching.